Hey, what's up everyone? Adam here with brahwegotthis, and today I'm going to show you how to play the inventory management sim within ESO after you hit level 50. I have a basic inventory management guide in the channel if you want to check that out too, but that was designed for the early levels in mind. As I have kept creating new characters and kept leveling them to in-game levels, I've realized that I honestly need to make a guide to help you with your inventory after you reach level 50 or higher. Because again, it is basically an inventory management sim at some point in this game. So let's go ahead and get that inventory cleaned up with some quick tips. Before we get started, if you want to watch me play live, I stream on twitch.tv/brahwegotthis on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The link is in the description if you want to come by and ask questions and hang out. You can also join our growing Discord and guild. The links to the Discord and the Twitch, again, are in the description. And if you want to become a patron to further support the channel, the link to that is in the description. You can get access to all the videos early and many other perks. And lastly, make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram to stay up to date on the channel-related things. Link in the description. So I know many of you troll me in Twitch and talk about how my inventory is atrocious after I made the basic inventory guide. But when you have 15 characters, things start to get out of hand. It is also very difficult to keep track of which armor is good or which weapons are good that you want to keep. Especially if you plan on to play this game in a long-term fashion, you might get anxiety about, well, I may want to use this piece of armor on another character or build or what have you. Believe me, I know it can be very daunting and stressful sometimes. So the first tip I will give you is do not keep any gear that is below CP 160 once you are above 50, except gear that has the research symbol on it. Gear that is below 160 CP, even purple gear, isn't useful to you in the long run. If you want to wear it until you hit 160, that's fine, but there's no reason to keep it because it's not the gear cap. Now, researchable gear is worth it for your main account or crafters that you want to have research on, so try your best to keep those if possible. Tip number 2, obviously sell any items with ornate on them and deconstruct any items with intricate on them. But here comes the hard part. What do you do with the gear that doesn't fall in those categories that you aren't sure about? Well, obviously the gear is yours, so if you want to keep certain traits or certain sets, that's up to you. But what I want you to do is go through these next tips to help you filter out some of these things, because this is the hard gray area that is really difficult when you get to the end game. Tip 3 is check the trait of the gear or weapon that you received and compare that to the rarity or rate at which you received those items. Let me explain this. If you are a Magicka DPS and you receive a Mother's Sorrow Inferno Staff or a Burning Spellweave Inferno Staff, these staves are not very common drops usually. They are also some really good staves for Magicka DPS classes, some considered the best in slot. If you get the item and it has the training trait on it, don't deconstruct this item because you can just transmute that trait to precise from training at a transmute station in our guild hall or in Clockwork City. Because if the drop chance for an item is rare, don't deconstruct it because of the trait, because you may not get that drop for months. I know people that grinded for the Burning Spellweave Inferno Staff for 2 years in this game and finally got it. So if you get it without the right trait, do not deconstruct it. Now, for items that may be easier to farm, say venomous items from the Greymore expansion around the world, basically, doing bosses and delves and all that stuff, deconstruct the ones that you don't have the traits that you need, because these are easier to farm. And what I do is if I need an item for a set, I'll take the first one and I'll wear it, and if I get any more, I'll deconstruct those until I get the trait that I need. So traits to look out for, though, are, if you're a Magicka DPS, your weapon traits are typically precise and infused for your weapons. Your jewelry traits are usually bloodthirsty, and your armor traits are usually all divines. For stamina DPS, your weapon traits are usually infused and sharpened. Your jewelry traits are usually bloodthirsty, and your armor is usually all divines. For tanks, your traits and weapons are usually sturdy on the shields, decisive on the swords, and infused on the staves. Again, these are typical ones. You can branch out if you want, but the jewelry ones for tanks are usually infused, and the armor is a mix between sturdy and infused. For healers, your traits are charged, usually on your Destro staff, and powered on your Resto staff. You can use arcane on your jewelry usually, and a mix of divines and infused on armor. These are the traits to look for when sifting through weapons and armor in the gray areas. Now, tip 4 concerns monster helms that you will be receiving from your Undaunted pledges. If you haven't watched my guide on Undaunted pledges and guild, check it out in the description or at the top of the screen. With deciding which monster helms to keep, again, I won't be able to go through every set, but some general advice I can give you is I used to try to collect every Undaunted 2-piece set in the game in case one day I used them or they got buffed. I realized this clogged my inventory up, so now I only keep perfectly rolled and weighted Undaunted 2-piece sets. What do I mean by this? Undaunted 2-piece sets have 3 weights: light, medium, and heavy. For Magicka DPS, for optimal setup, you want a heavy helm and a medium shoulder. For stamina DPS, you want a medium helm and shoulder, or sometimes a mix of others. For healers, you want a heavy helm and a medium shoulder. For tanks, you want a light helm and a medium shoulder. If you open an Undaunted chest and get a light Grothar shoulder for your Magicka DPS, if it's my first one, I'm wearing it until I get the medium weight. Same goes for every other role. But as soon as I start getting duplicates or wrong weighted ones, I'll deconstruct those because these will clog your inventory up faster than anything else. If you think you're going to use a monster set for another character, feel free to bank it, but just keep some of that in mind. And I will note that, again, you can exchange your armors between multiple characters. So if you have a full set of like best in slot gear for a Magicka DPS and you make another Magicka DPS, you can use that on another character. So keep that in mind. Now, we have covered most of the gear side of things, so let's go through a few more things regarding the inventory. Tip 5, any potions, foods you receive from crown crates, dismantle them for gems. These aren't worth keeping, in my opinion, and they will clog up your inventory. Tip 6, any trash items that you receive that say sell to merchant, do that and sell them to merchant when you can. We have a merchant in our guild hall that you can use. Tip number 7, consider getting ESO Plus eventually for the craft bag. I'm not going to harp on this too much since I went over that in our basic inventory management guide, and I also have an ESO Plus guide in the description or the top of the screen that you can check out. But having access to the craft bag will free up so much more inventory space, and it is worth it in my opinion. Tip number 8 is if you don't have ESO Plus, bank all your crafting mats in your bank as they can be used from the bank at tables. And consider making new characters called mules to store items on these characters to free up space for your main character. Tip number 9, any treasure maps, surveys, and master writs, bank these or store them in a storage coffer in your house. You can get storage coffers with 30 inventory spaces or 60 inventory spaces from master writ merchants, and these will help free up some really, really needed space. And make sure to actually do your treasure maps when you're CP 160 and do your writs when you can. That way your inventory will be less clogged. And tip number 10, upgrade your inventory at the bag merchants, upgrade your bank space at the bankers, and upgrade your inventory of your horse at the stable mount training stations throughout the world. These will add loads of space for you and help you in the long run. But that's it, everyone. That is the inventory management guide for the in-game once you hit level 50 or in your CP levels. I know that this can become really complicated and really frustrating, but if you follow these 10 tips, you will be able to have a cleaner inventory. And I know you guys troll me all the time in Twitch chat on my inventory, but I promise you it gets harder when you have more characters. But if you want to come troll like everyone else in the Twitch chat, come to twitch.tv/brahwegotthis Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You guys can have a great time there. The link to that is in the description, and you can join our Discord and our guild. The link to the Discord is in the description as well. And make sure to like, subscribe, heavy attack that bell icon, and share the video if you guys like this content. And lastly, I want to give a shout out and a thank you to all my patrons like I always do. Thank you guys and gals so much for supporting the channel above and beyond. If you'd like to become a patron, you guys can do that by going to the link in the description. You get access to my videos early and many other perks, so make sure to check that out. But until next time, y'all, remember to have faith, be great, and I'll see you guys on ESO.